Good afternoon. It's June 30th, and my name is Jim Mayola, and I'm here to interview Ramona Brown.
Right.
Ramona Brown, who has a unique distinction of being born and raised in a town that no longer exists.
Right.
Ramona, what year were you born?
I was born in 1928.
1928.
Yeah.
So how old does that make you?
I'll be 82 the 14th of July.
You do not look 82, dear.
Oh, I am.
Well, maybe you feel like it sometimes, but you certainly don't look 82.
Well, thank you.
So you were born before the Depression then?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I was born and raised during that.
And what town were you born in?
In Oakland Mills,
Oakland
which is
Mills.
now Liberty Dam.
Okay. So you were born in the little town, I wouldn't call it a village, it was bigger than that, a little town that when they built Liberty Dam, that town disappeared because it was on the floodplain.
Right.
What was Oakland Mills like?
Well, we had a woolen mills there, and one member of the family had to work in the mills in order to live there, which made the rent cheap.
Okay.
We had a 6-room house, and I think it was like $8 a month at the time.
Now, so was it a company town?
Melville Woolen Company.
No kidding.
Melville Woolen Company, they owned it.
So they owned all the property?
They owned everything.
Okay.
But and they had, we had all the homes, and then they had a store, a community store. And then there was one big building. I remember, what were they called? Not CCC. The men used to go in there to train. Can't remember anymore what they were called now. And mostly we just grew up there, and it was just great.
How many people do you think lived in the town? What would you guess?
Oh, I would say somewhere around 150.
So it was a small town. So everybody knew everybody.
Oh,
then.
everybody knew everybody.
Now, did you have a school there?
Yeah, we had a 2-room school.
Okay.
And then that went up into the 5th grade. And then from there, then we went to Sykesville.
Okay.
To the middle school and then the high school. Now and where I went to high school, that also burned down.
Right, the Sykesville High School burned down.
Yeah,
right.
And then they had to rebuild again. But it was just great being there, because like at Christmas, when it comes close to Christmas time, kids went out in the woods and cut down the tree for Christmas. And,
Sure.
And then we had the North Branch Patapsco River was right down behind us. And we'd go down there and one fella had a canoe, and we'd go canoeing, go swimming, fishing, playing in the woods, and it was just great.
But all that's gone now.
It's all gone.
Yeah, all that's underwater now.
It's all under.
Yeah, now, when they put the reservoir in, how old were you then?
Oh, that was when Trudy was born. And how old are you now? 58? 1952, I think, is when it...
Okay.
So I was there till I was 21, and then everybody had to move out.
So you lived in the town until they told you you had to move out because they were putting in the reservoir.
I was born and raised there.
Okay. Now, when they did that, did they tear down the houses first? Did they burn them down, or did they just leave them stand?
No, they're all underwater.
They just left them stand and that's amazing, and just let them rot in the water.
The mill is all underwater. And
now the mill must have been made out of stone, wasn't it, or was it wood?
No, it was stone and steel and stuff like that.
Amazing.
But they say sometimes, I don't know because they have it blocked off now.
Right.
But there was a time when you could go and see part of it's like sticking up out of the water.
Yeah. Well, there was,
whether it's still that way or not, I don't know.
Oh, 8 or 10 years ago, we had a real bad drought, and the water level was way down. And I had heard that story too, but I never saw it.
Yeah.
Well, how interesting. So, as a little girl, growing up in a small town with 150 people, what did you do for fun?
For fun, well, all the children went out. We played ball. We played Cowboys and Indians. Kicked a can. We just always had. And in the winter, we went ice skating, sledding, and then they had the hill where you had to go up and it was Greensville. From Oakland Mills, you go up the hill and then into Greensville, and then like some of the men we'd have our sleds, and they'd tie them on the back of the car, and they'd take us up the hill, and then we'd come back down again. And we went ice skating and swimming.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
There was always something to do.
Yeah. Now, the thing you had in common, I guess, is that the parents of all those children worked for the mill.
Right.
Yeah, so everybody was tied to the mill.
Right.
Yeah.
You had to be in order to live there.
Yeah. Now the store that you had, could you get everything at that store?
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a telephone. That was the only. Nobody else had telephones that I can remember. Whenever you needed a telephone, you went down to the store.
To the store. So everybody used the one telephone to call out.
Right.
Yeah. Now, electricity in your house?
Oh, I think when I was about maybe 9 or 10 years old, before we ever had electricity, we had lamps.
Right.
That you had to light.
So as a little girl, you grew up with lamps in your house, yeah.
And we didn't have running water.
Okay.
We had outhouses, and then they had spigots out. Like everybody went out and carried the water.
Right. So they had community spigots for community wells where people would get their water.
Right.
Yeah. How interesting. People don't realize how easy they've got it now, do they?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
But I thought that was easy to me.
Yeah.
I just, and like all the men, like I think it was in the fall of the year, the kids would go out and help them gather apples because they had orchards all around, gather apples, and then my grandfather had something that he hooked up to his car for when they wanted to cut up wood and everything, because we had wood stoves.
Sure.
And then another time, I remember they used to make apple butter, and everybody shared.
Right.
Everybody
that was a community event.
Right.
Everybody collected
and have
the
the
apples.
big kettles outside and make apple butter. And,
Yeah.
and then the one family had cows in the pasture, so that's where we got our milk from.
Okay.
And vegetables, everybody had a garden. So
it was a real.
I never ever knew we were poor until I went to high school.
Yeah.
Because we all lived the same.
Sure. Yeah.
And
now let me ask you this: you grew up during the Depression. You were a little girl during the Depression. You were probably 3 years old when it hit, or 2 or 3. But as a little girl, you probably have some memories of the Depression. How did it affect your family?
Well, I don't know. I just, like, my mom was a single mother. She had 4 of us girls, me, my sister India, Ars, and Barb. And I remember lots of times she'd call us in to have dinner, and we'd run in to have dinner, and we'd keep saying, "Come on, Mom, come on and eat. I'll eat, you girls go ahead, you girls go ahead." You didn't realize when you were a little kid, we might have eaten everything and not know what she had, but she never complained or anything.
Sure.
And my grandfather, he lived up a little ways from us, and he always was coming down, checking the refrigerator, and make sure that we had something to eat. And, well, we didn't have a refrigerator, we had an ice box.
Right, yeah, because you had no electricity at first,
And then, I don't know who it was, somebody would come through selling the ice, and they delivered all the time and everything.
Yeah.
And then we always was out there getting the chips off from him.
Yeah.
And then there was, they had a truck come in from Baltimore like once a week, and they would have like day-old bread and pies and cakes. So everybody got them.
Sure.
So
well, they were a lot cheaper.
Right, right. And I mean, it was just a wonderful, wonderful place to live.
So as a child, the Depression really didn't affect you that much. Your family had work, and so
they always worked,
and you had your garden, and everybody chipped in together and helped out. So it was kind of a community thing. So it really didn't affect you that badly.
Not that I can remember.
Yeah.
We
you
just always made do with whatever we had.
Sure.
And you don't miss what you don't have.
That's
so.
true. Yeah.
And then like some of the kids, like if there was one child in the family or something, they have a bicycle, everybody took turns.
Okay.
We went ice skating, there might have been maybe 8 pairs of ice skates and maybe 20 kids.
Sure.
So you'd skate a while and then they'd use them. And that's the way we did things.
Sure, you shared.
Yeah, it was really something.
Very. Now, as you mentioned that you'd go out and get ice chips. Was that a treat for the children?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like snowballs today.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Sure.
Oh, here comes Ice Man.
Yeah.
You guys out there getting ice chips.
to cool you off on a hot day. Yeah, that's great.
Oh, it was.
Now, did you have any chores?
Oh yeah, we all had to pitch in and
Mm-hmm.
like I say, I had 3 sisters, and the one sister was just 13 months younger than me,
Mm-hmm.
and her and I, like, she would do the upstairs and I would do the downstairs. The other 2 were smaller, and we had to go out and help my grandfather with the garden because he had a big garden.
Sure.
Had a mule, and
Now, did you plow the garden with a mule?
oh yeah.
No kidding.
And then my cousin Wally, he lived there too, and I can remember when my grandfather this one time he was planting potatoes, so we had to help. He'd go with the plow, and we're going through, and we're just throwing them in because we want to hurry up and go play, with the other kids. So we're throwing them in there, and my grandfather, when we got all done, Grandpapa, we're done now. He said, I don't think so. I said, well, Grandpapa, we got them all in there. He said, what'd I tell you? You clean them with the eyes up and everything. So then we had to go back and do them all, so we didn't get to play that day.
Had to do the job all over again.
Oh, boy. And another time, what the heck was with the wood? Kindling wood. And we had to stack it up in the shed, and you stack it this way and then this way.
Sure.
We just more or less threw it in there. Well, we're done, Grandpa. He comes out and looks and pulls one thing out, and it all falls down.
Yeah.
Another day we didn't get to play.
First of all, you had to pull it all out before you could stack it back in.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy. But that's the way you learn.
Sure.
And then we never made that mistake again.
That's right, you learn responsibility.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
It was something.
Now, you said you had a 2-room schoolhouse.
And then our teachers was the Amos. I can remember Helen and Margaret Amos. And they lived on a farm.
Were they sisters?
Would you like something to drink?
Oh, no, fine.
Okay.
Fine.
Yeah, they were 2 old. They were old maids.
And so you had 2 teachers in your 2-room schoolhouse. So I guess they each took a room?
Yeah, one side of it was from 1 to 3rd grade, and then the other side was 4th and 5th grades.
Yeah.
And then from there, like I say, then we went to Sykesville.
Right.
I rode on the bus.
Yeah. But you just walked to your regular school
Oh,
because
yeah.
everybody lived close by.
Oh yeah, we didn't have any buses or anything.
Yeah.
And the school was right there in the village, so it wasn't that far. But my grandfather was born and raised there too, Harry Beecraft. And we had this, in his yard he had this huge, huge oak tree, and he had planted it when he was 8 years old.
No kidding.
And they say that you can still see the oak tree.
No kidding.
Because it was huge.
Yeah.
Thought,
So your grandfather lived there,
and my mother,
and your mother lived
and
there,
me.
and you. 3 generations. And you'd be living there today if it weren't for the dam.
Right.
Probably.
Oh yeah. Oh, I loved it.
Wow.
It was really.
And of course, when the dam came along, the industry had to go away. I mean, the mill couldn't work anymore,
Right.
so all those people had to relocate and were out
Had
of
to
work.
relocate.
Do you recall whether or not anybody came along to help out with relocation? Was there any program to help you with relocating or anything like that? Or were you sort of on your own? Because, I mean, you lost your homes.
You're right.
Yeah.
Well, they had time, I mean, it wasn't something that happened overnight.
Sure, yeah.
But I remember my mother moved to Reisterstown, and a lot of people moved like closer to Sykesville, where the people in Greensville didn't have to leave. But I don't honestly remember.
Yeah.
But I know they had time. They had given them time.
Yeah, it takes a while anyway for them to finish the dam and for the water to come up, yeah.
And then...
And the land all belonged to the mill anyway, so they had probably worked out
everything
something
belonged
with
to the
mill.
Melvilles. And then my grandfather worked at the mills. He was a weaver. Then my mother was a weaver. And then when I was 15, I quit school and went to work at the drugstore over in Reisterstown, which my mom didn't know for about 6 months. I made my sister sign the paper so I could, because my sister and I started school at the same time.
Right.
And once we got in high school, we went to first year and second year, and then in third year, proms are coming up, you got rings to buy.
Sure.
So there's no way my mom can afford this.
Yeah.
So I told my sister, I said, you sign the paper, just sign Mom's name to it. She said, oh, she's going to kill us. I said, no, she won't. So a neighbor, I told him I was going to work to help my mom out. So he had went back and forth, and that's how she would leave for work, and then I would leave for work. She thought I was in school.
So he gave you a ride.
Right. And then when I turned 16, well then, when I was 13, the war started in 1941. And I was 13 then. And then when I turned 16, then I could work at the mill, because they used to make, blankets and all, but then, what's the kind for the khaki?
Right, okay.
We changed to that. And I worked there for a year, and my mom kept saying, I don't want you to always have to work in the mill.
Yeah.
I said, Mom, I'll learn.
Oh, it was good, honest work.
So then I worked there a year, and then I went to work at Social Security in Baltimore, and lived in there with my aunt and uncle, and then come home on the weekends. But, excuse me, I never minded it.
Yeah. What did you do at the drugstore when you worked there?
I was soda jerk.
Were you really? Yeah, all the drugstores in those days had little counters, didn't they?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with you could go there and get a sandwich and or a dessert
Sundaes
or something.
And sodas or whatever.
Sure. And so you made the sodas and yeah, how neat.
Sundaes and banana splits.
Yeah, I bet you had a lot of friends.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And then you came back to the mill and worked in the mill for a year.
For a year,
yeah.
And then I went to work at Social Security, which now is Harbor Place, I think.
Oh, okay.
It was a Social Security building down there.
Now this is downtown Baltimore. Okay. Now before we go downtown Baltimore, when you worked at the mill, what kind of work did they have you doing?
I was a weaver.
Were you? Okay.
I started out as a filler, like you had to fill them up at the end. And,
this is filling up all the machines to make sure that they were loaded to run.
And then my grandfather, I'd go down and he would show me how to run the looms to make. So then when I told the boss, I said that I wanted to be on, because you could make more money.
Sure.
He said, you don't know how? I said, yeah, I got some. My grandpa showed me how to do it, so he said, all right, I'll give you a try. So that's what I did.
And it worked.
Yeah.
Now all that was automated. I mean, they had looms that were run by, was it water power that made them go? Yeah. Yeah, they had it was called the race. It's what I remember, and that went right down through the mill. Right. And that's where they got their power from. They had a smaller place where the water went through at a higher speed. Right. And that could turn the turbines. Yeah. How interesting. Yeah. I bet it was noisy. Oh yeah. I bet it was dusty. I think it was about 3 stories high. Yeah, it was, but I it was. I liked it. It was a job. I wanted to stay there, and my mom kept saying, "No, no, no! I don't want you to have to stay in the mills all the time." Yeah. So, now, was it hot in the summer and cold in the winter? How did they? Yeah. Yeah. You just dealt with it. Right. Yeah. Just like the homes, we had the big the kitchen stove. Was wood stove, and then I don't know how old I was when my mom had it converted where we could use oil instead of wood. Right. And then we had electric by then when I was growing up. Like I say, I was 8 or 10 years old when we got that, and then she had like downstairs was 3 rooms and 3 bedrooms upstairs, and the room in the middle downstairs had a hole in the ceiling, and then they had this, what are those heaters called? They run by oil. Yeah. And anyway, that was there, and then that's where the heat went up. Through the ventilator. Yeah, sure. So, and it heated the upstairs. Right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Now, did you have a radio in your house after you got electricity? Oh, yeah. Yeah? Yeah, that was the first thing I think my mom bought me and my sister. It was a radio, and then it was connected to, not a Victrola, but a machine to play the records on. And then all the kids, would come to the house and we'd dance. Sure. Because, I love to dance. Now, what did you listen to on the radio? Do you remember?
Mostly I like the jive music,
Mm-hmm.
boogie woogie music.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, Harry James and
Sure.
Gene Krupa,
Sure.
all the oldies.
Yeah.
Oh, they were great.
Now, did you ever get a television?
No,
Never got one. Yeah.
I don't. Well, no, we never ever had any TVs when nobody had them then. And then, well, I got married when I was 21 and moved to New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about a year after that is when I had the first TV.
Mm-hmm.
And it had this little box. Everybody come to look in this little box.
Right. The screen was very small.
Well, they did, I think, like in the bars or something, I think they was the first places that I can remember that they had a TV.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody in our village that I knew of had a TV.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think I even heard of them when I lived
Right.
there.
Sure. Yeah. Very
But-
interesting.
But
So you moved to New Jersey for a while, and then
yeah,
did you?
that's where my daughters were born.
Mhm.
Trudy and Terry were born in New Jersey.
Mhm.
Oh, and I lived up there. Trudy was born there. I think she was 20 and Terry was 18. And my husband was in construction, and we moved. He was out of a local upstate New York, so then we moved up to New York.
Mm-hmm.
And then the girls were older then, so then I traveled with him. But then he died when I was 49 years old. So
What brought you back to Carroll County?
when my husband died,
Mm-hmm.
I came back, and then I went to work at Black and Decker,
Mm-hmm.
and I worked there for 2 years, I think it was, when I bought the land and had the house built.
Okay.
And then my daughters lived with me.
Mm-hmm.
But
Carroll County's not a bad place to live, is it?
oh no, I love Carroll County.
Yeah.
That's what I always told my mom, because I travel, and she asked me one time, wasn't too long before she died, she says, Mona, you and Art are traveling all the time. She says, where, she says, I hate to ask you this, but if something ever happens, where would you be buried? And I said, here, Mom. I was visiting her then.
Mm-hmm.
I said, here, Mom, in Carroll County, where I was born, that's where I'm going to be buried. And she says, well, I want to be buried the same place. So anyway, we picked up lots down at Lakeview.
Mm-hmm.
And it was shortly after that she died. And then 3 months after she died, my husband died. I thought, oh my goodness. So, but
Carroll County's home.
right,
Yeah.
it was, and then I don't know, there's just not too many of us left now that live back there.
Mm-hmm. Now, Ramona, you said after you worked at the mill for a year, you went to Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
That was downtown Baltimore.
Right.
Now, how did you get downtown Baltimore? How did you commute?
Well, my mother's sister and her husband lived in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
So I lived with them.
Right.
And then would take the streetcars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we had streetcars in Baltimore
Right.
then. Yeah. And how long did you do that?
Oh, I started there when I was 17, and then when I got married, I think I was 22 when I moved up to New Jersey.
So about 4 or 5 years. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you like it? Did
Oh
you like
yeah.
So about what time was that? That would have been.
Well,
That was in the late 40s.
yeah.
Yeah. What was Baltimore like in the late 40s? They had streetcars. That's
Right.
different. Yeah.
And like I say, I lived with my aunt and uncle,
Mm-hmm.
and if I had a date, I just walked down from where they lived, was Asquith Street, and walked down to go to Gay Street, to the stores and that. And then nobody ever bothered you or anything.
Yeah.
You know, you just walked there wherever you wanted to go, or go get the streetcar or whatever. But now, I don't know, I would never want to live in there now,
Yeah. Different world.
you know, altogether.
Yeah. Now, there wasn't as much traffic, was there?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No.
Because you can't have as much traffic as we have today with streetcars. I mean,
Right.
it just wouldn't work. They don't get along very
Yeah,
well.
I don't really remember a whole lot of traffic. Mostly the people walk back and forth to the stores or
Sure.
took streetcars.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know too many people at the time when I lived in Baltimore that had a car.
Yeah.
I know. I don't remember them having any cars. But and then I remember my mom calling me and telling me that they had, they had to. I knew they was going to have to move, and then found out that she had moved to Reisterstown. And because I was pregnant with my daughter Trudy at the time. That she had moved. So.
So you were how old in 1941 when the war started? Do you recall?
13.
Okay,
I was born in 28.
So you were a teenager then.
I was 13.
And so you have clear recollections of what happened in Carrollton.
I can remember, like it was yesterday, that the neighbors were all getting together because they had radios.
Sure.
And I kept saying, "Mom, what's going on? What's going on?" And she said, "We're at war," and I didn't even know what a war was.
Sure.
I said, "What do you mean we're at war?" And she said, "The Japanese had, hit Pearl Harbor," and I'm thinking, "What's Pearl Harbor?" And anyway, then little by little, I seen all the people who lived there, the men that had to go into the war, including my two uncles. But out of all the people that from there that had to go back out to war, I can only remember one person that lived there was killed, and then my girlfriend's cousin, he was killed at Iwo Jima. But other than that, my uncle survived. One went to Germany, one went to Guam or Guadalcanal. But
you were very lucky.
But you just didn't know. I had no idea what a war was.
Yeah. Now there was. Were there anything that happened to you during the war times as a teenager that you found that was noticeable, that was different? You mentioned that the mill went from doing what they had done before to doing khakis for the military, so they did a lot of work for the military.
And I remember things were rationed. You had coupons to buy. I can't remember exactly whether it was butter or. But everybody had these coupons.
Right.
I can remember that.
Certain things had to be rationed. I think gasoline was one of the things. Yeah.
Which most the people that lived there could walk to work anyway.
So it didn't matter.
It didn't bother us that much.
Let's see, sugar was one of the things.
Yeah, sugar. Oh, I can't remember anything. I think certain meats.
Yeah,
but
they had to save a lot of things for the war effort.
Like my grandfather and uncles, they used to go out and all the men there and kill like squirrels and rabbits.
Sure.
And my daughter said, "Oh, you eat squirrels and rabbits?" I said, "Yeah, they're delicious."
You lived off the land. You
right.
Everybody had a garden.
And
yeah. And you fished.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So we never really, starved or anything because there was always something to eat.
Sure.
So it was really great.
An interesting childhood. You've lived an interesting life, it sounds like.
I really did.
Yeah.
I've been very, very fortunate to have lived this long and, been through what I've been through. But
now, Ramona, you said you bought the land here and had the house built. When was that? What year was that?
In 1980.
Okay. And you've been living here ever since? More than 30 years.
More 30 years I've been
30
living
years.
here.
And what have you been doing here?
Well, when I moved here, I was working at Black & Decker, and I think I worked there about 6 or 8 years, and then they had the layoff. So then when I got laid off there, where'd I go? I went to, it's a well-known nursing home. Where did you go today? You went to the senior center? Oh, the nursing home.
Carroll Lutheran Village?
Carroll Lutheran Village.
Okay.
I worked there in the kitchen serving the patients. And then Black & Decker called us all back again. So we went back. No. From there I went, where'd I go? Random House.
Okay.
I went to Random House and I
Which
worked
is
there.
just down the street.
Right.
Yeah.
I figured, well, I'm closer to home, so I'll work there. And then I worked there for 6 months, and then that's when Black & Decker called us all back again.
Mm-hmm.
So we went back, and I think it only lasted a couple of years, and
Mm-hmm.
then everybody got laid off again.
Yeah.
So where in the heck did I work then? Then from there, I think I went to Walmart's.
Mm-hmm.
And then I worked at Walmart's, I think 6 or 7 years, something like that. So,
Now, Ramona, you live just off of Route 27,
Mhm.
which is, I guess you call it Manchester Road?
Manchester, it's
Yeah,
Manchester Road.
Called a
actually.
whole bunch of things.
Right.
You go further down and it's Ridge Road and all that. But when the house was built in 1980, was the front of the house, the road out here, was that the main road? And then later on they built the 27 that we have today? Or was that 27 already here?
The 27 was already here when I
Okay.
moved here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you recall when they did that? Do you have any idea? Because it's obvious that that's not the original road. That was put in
Right.
sometime after. And where you're living in front of your house is part of the old road.
Yeah, I don't really know
Mhm.
when they put that in,
Yeah.
but I have no idea.
Well, in 80-some years, you've seen a lot of changes in Carroll County.
Yeah. A lot of them.
What would you say are the biggest changes that you've seen in the county?
Well, I know we used to come up the Route 140, and then all of a sudden, it's all these car salesmen and just everything is just so built up and everything. There's just I don't know. It's just. I think the biggest changes I've seen is, like I say, where they keep clearing off the land and building.
Mm-hmm.
And I know everybody's got to have a place to live,
Right.
but I just always loved the country.
Yeah. Yeah, we're losing a lot of the farms.
And they are.
Yeah.
And
Now, Ramona, let me ask you this. Did you and your family ever get a chance to come up to Westminster when you were a little girl? Did you ever visit up here?
no, I don't think I ever was in Westminster until we went to Reisterstown.
Okay. So for you guys, if you wanted to do some extra shopping,
It
you'd
was
go
in
to
Reisterstown
Yeah.
because it was like 5 miles. Because every Sunday, this lady would take whatever kids wanted to go, and we'd walk from there to go to the movies in Reisterstown.
Yeah.
And it was a 5-mile walk. I can remember that.
But I bet it was a
No,
lot
we
of
never
fun.
really come up towards Westminster until I got older. Like when I was 14, 15, and 16, we'd go to different places up here to dance. And then there was a place called the Coon Club that we would go to.
It's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was a place that had this big pool. Not Sullivan's Pool. It was right around Westminster.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it now.
I've heard about that. It was out in the field.
Yeah,
And people used to come out and park and bring their families in and go to the pool.
right.
Yeah.
I remember we would go up there and go swimming,
Uh-huh.
but
Now, when you'd come up to the Coon Club, you'd go and did they have bands there playing?
Mhm.
Yeah. And you would come and dance.
come and dance.
Yeah.
Then they had the cakewalk
Okay.
and all that.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was really fun.
Yeah. Good, clean fun.
Right.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
And what kind of music did they play?
Mostly country western.
Yeah. Because you had said earlier you liked Harry James and jive
yeah, I
music,
like-
but
I
they didn't
like
do a
that.
lot of that up here.
No, but they had fast dancing, so could jitterbug too, and
Sure.
that's what I like to do. So
And you'd have fun. Yeah.
it was
Great.
fun.
Yeah.
It was really a lot of fun. But I think when I lived upstate New York, put me more in mind of where I was born and raised, because I lived up near, it was called Silver Creek, and they had a lot of space, a lot of trees and farmlands and all that, and that made me feel like I was back home again.
Yeah.
I like where I was born and raised most of all, but I liked it up there too. But
Well, Ramona, would you have any advice for youngsters coming up today? It's a different world. Things have changed a lot. But what advice would you give to youngsters coming up today?
I think mostly to get a good education, I think is the most important thing, and to get out and work as soon as they can, because I don't think that hurt anybody.
Right.
Just to work, keep busy, and like I say, most of all, make sure they get a good education, because the way the economy is now, there's hardly any place to go get a decent job.
Right.
So if they don't have a good education, they're not going to make it.
That's right. Well, Ramona, do you have any final thoughts? Any stories that you haven't shared with me today? Something from your childhood or from your young adulthood, or a story from the old mill town that you can think of?
Well, I can remember I used to work when I was maybe 10 or 12. I would go down, I had a wagon, and then I would go to the mill with my pencil and paper, and then see who wanted cake and who wanted soda, which they called it pop. It was always pop, it wasn't soda.
Sure.
And then they'd give me the money, and I would go up to the store and get everything and take it back to them. And each one would give me a penny or two. But it added up.
Sure.
It was good. And I did that for a long time, too.
Every day?
Yep, after school I'd go
Right.
down.
Yeah, good.
So that was good.
Yeah. You were the little entrepreneur, which is great. That's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I used to, like these ladies, we went to go someplace, and I would go and curl their hair for them and do things like that, and they'd give me a quarter.
Sure.
It all added up.
That's right.
But mostly I just really had a great time. I remember they had a big field, and this one couple, Marvin and Moni Thompson, they were older, and they would take all of us kids, and then we'd choose up a team, we'd play ball, and we did that every night in the summertime.
No kidding.
And, it was really, really a lot of fun.
Great exercise and great socialization.
And then in the evenings in the summer, I can remember, like just about everybody had a swing on the front porch. And the people would sit out on the porch and talk, and then the kids would be out in the road playing kick the can. And
you didn't have to worry. There wasn't a lot of traffic on the road, not like today.
And we just, like I say, we could always find something to do. Now I hear the kids saying, "Oh, I'm so bored, I don't know what to do." Good grief, go play with your friends.
You don't see a lot of kids playing outside anymore, do you?
No, and then I know it's good to have, like ever since the television come in and the computer games and all this, and I hate to see the kids just sitting in front of the computer,
right,
or whatever them things are they play the games on and everything. I said, get out and get some fresh air.
Yep.
That's why my little great granddaughter, I'm glad she's like me. She loves the outside.
Sure, good.
So I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
So
nothing wrong with exercise.
right, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't remember right off the top of my head.
Were the winters harder when you were a little girl than they are now? I know we just went through a very hard winter.
Yeah.
But what would you think?
we always had a lot of snow. I can remember one time, excuse me, the men were out there digging tunnels so that you could walk from one house to the other. Of course, I was like about 8 or 9 years old, but it was way over my head.
Wow.
We had that much snow that I guess drifted or came down or whatever.
Yeah.
But we just always had a lot of snow. We went ice skating, so we had some
hard winters.
I guess they were hard.
Yeah, they'd have to be to get the ice thick enough to skate on.
Right. But like I say, I'll probably remember all kinds of things once you leave.
That's the way it always goes. Well, Ramona, I want to thank you so very much for taking the time out of your day to let me interview you. It was so enjoyable.
It brings back a lot of happy memories for me.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. These are stories of things that a lot of people don't even know about. They don't know that there was once a town in Carroll County. I guess you're kind of right on the border, weren't you? Carroll County to Baltimore County. Yeah, that was a mill town.
Right.
That's completely gone now because of the Liberty Dam.
Right.
I'm going to say washed it away. It flooded it.
Well,
Yeah, it's
flooded
just,
it out. That's what it did.
yeah. And the name of the town was Oakland Mills.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where you were born and raised.
Where I was born and raised.
Amazing. What an amazing story. Yeah.
It was one of the happiest times of my life to live there.
I just bet there's not very many people left that grew up there.
No.
And very few people that remember it. They've heard of it,
Right.
but very few people that actually went through it and saw it and had any experience in it. So I want to thank you again for sharing your story with me today. It was
more than
very
welcome.
interesting. Have a great day.
Thank you.